Chapter 766, The Deities, Anchor. Knowing that the diary pages specially selected by Queen Mystic contained rather important information, the fool Klein focused his attention and cast his eyes on the yellowish-brown goatskin in his hand.
11th September. Ever since I became an angel, I've had the feeling that I've had my identity disassociated. In my heart, in my soul, and in the depths of my mind, there's ultimately a voice urging me, influencing me, and creating an uncontrollable sense of coldness, bloodthirstiness, cruelty, and craziness. This doesn't stem from the external world or an influence from a god of the same pathway. I can clearly sense that it comes from one's genes, the collective subconsciousness of humanity, from generation after generation. It stems from the beyonder characteristic itself, and not from the remnant psychological influences. It makes me have a strong desire to hunt and kill. It makes me want to devour all the living beings around me with beyonder characteristics. It requires me to spend a lot of effort to resist it. Even if I've already acted and digested the potion, it doesn't seem to improve. It's no wonder that Mr. Doris said that rationality is temporary, but madness is eternal. 28th September. I haven't written a diary entry in ages. In the past half a month I seem to see myself being replaced by a stranger. Bit by bit I turn cold and terrifying. Even my daughter Bernadette can only allow me to show her minute amounts of fatherly love. Very, very tiny amounts. Just as I was about to go mad, I seemed to hear countless praises. They were from my subjects, people who had benefited from my reformations. They are the believers who view me as the son of steam. They praise me with great acclaim. They erected statues of me, write stories for me, and have created songs and poems for me. Their voices seem like a ship's anchor that helps me secure myself in place. I began to have the ability to resist that desire and that roar within me. Bit by bit, I walked out of it as I once again possessed the normal feelings of a father, a husband, and a man. Just sequence 2 alone causes such changes. At sequence 0, at the level of a true God, how terrifying would it be to resist that madness? Perhaps they also need an anchor so as to resist the beyonder characteristics and the strong inclination to lose control, the urges buried deep in the collective subconscious. I probably understand why they establish churches and why they want to spread their faith, to write stories for their faction's saints and leave legends for their corresponding angels. But why do they not have any anthropomorphic form other than symbols? I can't understand it. I'll try asking Mr. Dorr in the future. He seems to know a lot in regards to the domain of deities. If he had been released back then, there might very well be an additional deity today. 29th September. After rereading yesterday's diary entry, I recalled the corresponding rituals of my Sequence 4, Sequence 3, and Sequence 2. They clearly had hints of madness and cruelty, akin to the kinds held by antagonists in novels. A sequence pathway might very well be a path destined to be crazy and filled with despair. And this is the only path for humans to obtain extraordinary strength. How laughable and ironic it is. We strive to save ourselves, only to better destroy ourselves.
The first page's content left Klein's heart heavy and repressed. The Roselle who had written those words was no longer an ordinary person, but someone who had become an angel, someone who had joined the Twilight Hermit Order, and someone who had seen the blasphemy slate. His understanding of the mysterious world and beyonder characteristics far exceeded him, but he was even more pessimistic than him. He seemed to believe that the world's origins were innately warped, crazy, and destined for destruction. However, the 7 deities have apparently found a way to maintain their rationality. Ordinary humans aren't without any use. Their recognition and their spirituality put together can help a deity anchor their original image, retaining their memories and rationality that they had accumulated for years. This can be inferred from Roselle's own experiences. However, why would the 7 deities abandon their anthropomorphic images and use sacred emblems as a form of abstraction?
This doesn't match my theories. I can't understand why.
Klein didn't waste any time as he flipped to the next diary page.
5th December, night of the blood moon. I conversed with Mr. Dorr. Like every time prior to this, he would always make a request to get me to help him return to the real world, but he doesn't overly insist on it. Furthermore, he would randomly answer some of my questions. Heh, it's like he is playing a game, trying hard to raise my affection towards him. But unfortunately, I'm sorry, I've already sealed off that option ahead of time. As I already knew of the legends of the Kings of Angels, I mainly asked Mr. Dorr about the level of strength that the Kings of Angels have, knowing the fact that I had nothing to lose by asking him that question. Mr. Dorr said that some of the Kings of Angels accommodated the uniqueness, while others had consumed 2 sets of Sequence 1 potions. It could also be both. The word accommodate is used in an odd manner. I had asked him about it, but Mr. Dorr didn't directly answer me. All he said was that if one was unable to accommodate the uniqueness, then the uniqueness was a burden instead of an aid to a Sequence 1 angel before they held the ritual to advance to Sequence 0. It's understandable. It's akin to using a Grade 0 sealed artifact. The negative effects are often terrifying, and the uniqueness must definitely be even more exaggerated. I also asked which Kings of Angels had accommodated their uniquenesses, and similarly, Mr. Dorr didn't give a direct answer. He only said that Amen and Adam make all the angels feel a sense of envy, because they were born with a uniqueness and didn't need to consider the problem of accommodation. From another point of view, does it mean that Amen and Adam's state is equivalent to having consumed a Sequence 1 potion and the uniqueness, as expected of the Creator's sons? That Creator, who's also known as the ancient Sun God, was actually so powerful that he could pass on a uniqueness to each of his 2 sons, as well as Sequence 1 Beyonder's characteristics. Was he trying to purify himself to eliminate any unneeded interference? Then, does Mr. Dorr also accommodate a uniqueness and also possibly have even consumed 2 Sequence 1 potions? I didn't ask, because I knew he definitely wouldn't answer me. During the conversation, Mr. Dorr warned me not to directly say out Adam's full name. Otherwise, it would be detected and the conversation would be discovered. I had an inkling why, as I laughingly asked him that didn't he just say Adam's full name. Mr. Dorr said it didn't matter. This is because the Apprentice Pathway's Sequence 4 is called Secret Sorcerer. It has the meaning of maintaining secrecy, and although it's inferior to the Servant of Concealment of the Evernight Pathway, it's enough for him to block any detection at his level. I asked another few questions regarding the deities, but Mr. Dorr didn't answer. All he said was that when I had the ability and opportunity, I could head above the moon to take a look. I would then understand many things. This is somewhat in line with some of my previous thoughts, but I'm suspecting if he is luring me there to get a chance to return to the real world. After all, his appearance each time is related to the moon.
As long as Mr. Dorr appears, there will be plenty of information, usually covering an entire page.
His explanation of the level of strength the Kings of Angels have does match my theories.
The generalized meaning of King of Angels implicitly refers to a quasi-deity who exceeds Sequence 1 by using a variety of means, but they have yet to reach the level of a Sequence 0. This includes accommodating the uniqueness or consuming additional Sequence 1 potions. The simplified meaning of King of Angels will point out to the Creator who the City of Silver worships, the 8 kings of all the angels that are ruled by the ancient Sun God. Of course, they must also fulfill the general definition. Thoughts rapidly flash through Klein's mind. As for Rosel's theory about the ancient Sun God, he was in strong agreement. He believed that the Creator, who the City of Silver worshipped, had reclaimed too many authorities of the ancient gods, causing him to show signs of chaos and insanity. Hence, he decisively gave birth to 2 sons to eliminate a portion of the waste. To put it simply, Amen and Adam are freebies that come with drinking potions. From the looks of it, Angel of Imagination, Adam, clearly possesses the uniqueness of the Spectator Pathway. He is likely the mysterious leader of the Twilight Hermit Order. Since ancient times, he has been interfering with the direction of the times in order to revive his father.
I wonder if he has advanced to sequence 0. Even if he hasn't, the number of angels the Twilight Hermit Order can mobilize probably exceeds my imagination. Oh, Secret Sorcerer actually has the meaning of keeping secrets, as well as the implications of concealment.
Klein instantly recalled the symbol on the back of the Fool's chair. It was the pupilless eye, a symbol representing secrecy, and the contorted lines that represented change. He quickly reined in his thoughts and flipped to the third diary page.
28th November. I dreamed of Grimm again. He was the smartest among my subordinates, but unfortunately he died in the fog sea due to some unknown infection while exploring that nameless island. He didn't even leave a child behind. Back then I knew that the nameless island hid secrets with unimaginable danger, but due to my lacking strength, all I could do was hold back. The dream this time is likely a result of my spirituality, reminding me that I can explore that island, grasp its secrets, and completely resolve Grimm's matter. 29th November. I summoned 3 subordinates, and with Benjamin Abraham's help and some searching, I finally found that nameless island again. I didn't directly enter, and I decided to rest for a day along its periphery. Edward said that he also often dreams of Grimm, feeling a deep sense of guilt for not having managed to save him back then. This is not your responsibility, but my problem. That was what I said to Edwards because I'm their leader, my buddy. 30th November. We ventured deep into the island. Existing here were beyonder creatures that large sources of data claim that they have gone extinct. They gathered there without any conflict, as though they were consecrating something. This bunch of beyonder creatures without any intelligence appeared to be holding some ritual. They were praying to an unknown deity? In the ritual I saw Grimm.
Chapter 767, Passing a Message.
Grimm, who got infected on the nameless island and was undeniably deceased, appeared once again on the nameless island? Emperor, when did you start writing horror stories? Also, where's the rest?
Klein's gaze froze onto the last line of the third diary page, and he discovered that there wasn't any new information. Apart from that, he was similarly alarmed by Emperor Rosel's description of the Beyonder creatures' strange gathering and their worship of an unknown entity. One had to understand that not all Beyonder creatures had intelligence and could be communicated with. Many of them were monsters who had lost control or had madness as an innate property. And these monsters that had lost control were gathered together, worshiping some unknown existence. Unfortunately, the Emperor didn't leave behind the coordinates of the nameless island. However, even if he had recorded it, he thought,
I wouldn't dare to head over, for fear of any infection. If I were to die only to be revived on the island, that would be troublesome. I'll need to be at least a sequence 4 or even a sequence 3 before I'll have what it takes to explore it.
As Klein thought, he made the diary in his hand vanish. He then turned to look at Catalea and asked with a smile,
What's your request?
Catalea asked without even thinking.
Honorable Mr. Fool, I wish to know if Emperor Rosel once participated in a very secretive and very ancient organization.
Very secretive and very ancient. Twilight Hermit Order? Emperor Rosel used to be a member of it?
Audrey suddenly recalled Mr. Fool's previous mention of that organization. Alger recalled the corresponding matter and remembered that in Miss Justice's description of the Desire Apostle case in Backland, there was a mysterious organization mentioned. Back then, Mr. Fool had told the members not to say the organization's name in the outside world because any mention of it will be known.
Such an organization does match Emperor Rosel's status.
Alger nodded inwardly. As for Klein, he thought of something else.
Queen Mystic's choice of diary pages are vague. She isn't able to accurately and precisely ask questions based on the content. It also means that she roughly knows that diary pages from certain periods are very important with key information within them, or she is able to discern Rosel's emotions from when it was written.
As for Ma'am Hermit's question, it didn't pose any problems for Klein. He smiled and said,
Yes.
At the same time, he silently warned himself.
In the future, I need to be careful that Queen Mystic's questions might be completely unrelated to the diary pages she hands over. Thankfully, I've read quite a number of Roselle's diary, and I have quite a good understanding of the Emperor.
After saying that, he added and said with a smile,
It's your turn.
He didn't directly mention the Twilight Hermit Order, wishing that he could answer another question based on this topic in the future. Catalea bowed and expressed her gratitude before looking at the magician.
I wish to obtain clues regarding the direct descendants of the Abraham family. 1,000 pounds.
She had no psychological burden when it came to offering a price, as Queen Mystic could definitely provide compensation for her.
Why did you directly look at me? She already knows that my teacher is a member of the Abraham family.
Fors was first alarmed before realizing that it was nothing surprising. This was because this matter wasn't a secret to the other members of the Tarot Club, apart from Ma'am Hermit. It was very normal for them to mention it after completing a transaction with her. Although 1,000 pounds was very attractive, Fors didn't plan on selling information on her teacher. In all her life, there were only a handful of people who had been truly sincere to her. Therefore, she cherished such relationships. After some deliberation, Fors asked,
Why are you looking for them? If you can provide a reason, I can pass the message. As for any further developments, it will depend on them. I have no say on those matters.
Indeed, she might appear ordinary, but she actually conceals many secrets. She's a lady who's cautious and meticulous.
Catalea sighed inwardly as she said with a nod.
That's very reasonable. I'm searching for the direct descendants of the Abraham family in the hopes of obtaining information on Mr. Dorr. Pass this message to them and see if there's a chance for cooperating. Well, just for passing on the message, I'll pay you 350 pounds. If they're willing to take up the matter, I'll pay another 650 pounds.
Fors held back for a full second before answering,
Deal.
After saying that, she came to realize the hidden meaning behind Ma'am Hermit's words.
Mr. Dorr is related to the Abraham family? That's right. My bracelet came from Ma'am Alyssa, and it came from the Abraham family. Yes, teacher still doesn't know that I'm aware he's part of the Abraham family. I can only casually mention it in my letters that someone was searching for the direct descendants of the Abraham family at a particular gathering, and that it has something to do with Mr. Dorr. I wonder what kind of reaction teacher will have.
At this point, Miss Justice was happy for her friend, sensing that her friend had escaped the predicament of being broke.
Fors is already sequence 7. She has almost caught up to me. I have to become a hypnotist as soon as possible.
As she had such thoughts, she glanced at the Tarot Club members, wishing that they had clues to the fruit of an illusory chime tree.
Miss Justice's gaze really makes it hard to say no.
Fors lowered her head in embarrassment. This was because she had yet to obtain any clues regarding the fruit of an illusory chime tree in her circles. Sitting across from Audrey, Alger thought for 2 seconds and said,
I have clues, but it will take 2 weeks before I can obtain it.
He did have clues. A long time ago, he had discovered an illusory chime tree when he entered the primitive island with Kolangos, but due to his lacking strength, he didn't attempt to approach it. And now, he had the chance of advancing to sequence 5. He naturally didn't want to give up any opportunities for making money. After all, he still owed Admiral of Stars for the information of the Obninsks. As for why he was mentioning it now, in a sense it was to declare his rights. When the time came, he and the world would explore together. It was best to decide the splitting of the spoils ahead of time to prevent any conflict. Of course, when dealing with the illusory chime tree, it was likely that Gehrman Sparrow would idly stand at the side without rendering any assistance.
No problem.
Audrey was delighted, and she didn't even ask for a price. She was already beginning to consider finding an excuse or a reason to directly buy it from the psychology alchemists after returning to Backland in June. With the 2 transactions coming to an end, due to none of the other members having any requests for the time being, Catalea repeated her search for the blood of a mythical creature, and Emlyn once again mentioned that he was searching for the remaining 4 believers of the primordial moon. Then, the tarot gathering entered the free exchange segment. Derek very naturally said,
I've already become a notary.
You don't have to tell us that.
The hanged man had the urge to face palm, but he replied with a calm voice.
Although a notary will receive a massive boost in one's physical attributes, it's still more of a support role. If the notarization of a power is valid, you'll have them temporarily enhanced. If the notarization is invalid, the beyonder powers will be forcefully dispersed. At the same time, a notary is good at creating contracts. Once a signature is provided as confirmation, even a sequence 5 cannot violate it. Even if a sequence 4 demigod tries to forcefully violate the contract, they will have to pay quite a price.
As a member of the Church of Storms, it was one of the basics for him to know the strengths and weaknesses of the Sun pathway. Therefore, Alger carefully explained the exact situation for Little Sun. He also reminded him to select a mystical item that was good at controlling a target. If there wasn't any, it was best to select something with powerful offensive strength.
Thank you, Mr. Hangman.
Derek thanked him from the bottom of his heart. Deep down, in the entire Tarot Club, he felt that the greatest and most respectable person was Mr. Fool, and the most impressive person to strive for as a role model was Mr. World. And the most reliable and kind person was none other than wise Mr. Hanged Man. Towards this, Emlyn thought,
"This fellow has actually caught up to me. No, I can't be surpassed by him. I need to complete the hunting competition as soon as possible to get the rewards."
He contemplated for a few seconds, and after receiving Mr. Fool's permission, he conjured the thin moon puppet that resembled a wooden pole.
"Ladies and gentlemen, does any one of you know what this is?"
He knew that Mr. Fool was definitely aware of the answer, but he temporarily didn't have anything he could use for an equal exchange with this mighty existence. Therefore, he could only rely on the other members of the Tarot Club for any answers.
Isn't this the puppet I saw at that gathering? Mr. Moon already found his target.
Fours similarly waited for others to give an answer out of curiosity. Catalea carefully observed it before frowning.
It's likely a moon envoy. It's a beyonder item that primordial moon believers create by using a bloody ritual that spans centuries. It's said to be imbued with divine powers. Each one of them possesses an unimaginable horror. Where did you obtain it from? It's very dangerous. It's best that you hand it over to the upper echelons of the sanguine.
Emlyn changed his sitting posture and chuckled.
"I encountered it when hunting the primordial moon believer. She's already dead while I'm still alive."
Mr. Moon's flaunting of himself is really obvious.
The senior spectator, Audrey, chuckled inwardly. Catalea was taken aback. Without deliberately hiding anything, she asked,
How did you do it? Did the upper echelons of the sanguine provide you with assistance?
Emlyn gaped, somewhat at a loss for words. Only then did he realize that this topic wasn't suitable for a deeper discussion.
Ahem.
He cleared his throat and looked towards the end of the long bronze table.
"I sought help from Mr. Fool."
Chapter 768, Conversation Between Smart People. Sought help from Mr. Fool? You can do that. Catalea was stunned by what she heard. Having been punished and discovering that his blessed Garamond Sparrow was becoming more and more impressive, she no longer had any doubts regarding Mr. Fool's status or abilities. She even knew that when Mr. Fool pulled her in through the use of an ancient item, allowing her to escape the pursuit of knowledge, she had come to realize that he was in existence at least at the level of the hidden sage or primordial moon. However, for certain reasons, he wasn't able to interfere with the real world, making her suspect him to be an ancient god that was undergoing an awakening process. The moon's words left her surprised that Mr. Fool was able to provide substantial help to the Tarot Club members, and wasn't just someone who could only provide knowledge or pull them above the gray fog.
On the one hand, this means that in times of danger, I can also pray directly to Mr. Fool for help. This is more ridiculous than any ritual. On the other hand, it reveals the fact that Mr. Fool's recovery process is faster than I had imagined.
Many thoughts instantly flashed through Catalea's mind. Audrey, Derek, and company weren't that surprised. They had more or less sought Mr. Fool's help in the past, and they had even witnessed the angel under this great existence. Seeing everyone's gaze fall on him, Emlyn shrank his neck as he lifted his chin.
I paid a price. It was a fair and equal exchange.
Fair and equal exchange. A mighty existence's immediate and effective response is priceless.
Catalea couldn't help but retort inwardly. She didn't directly say it, because she too wished to use the opportunity of such a fair and equal exchange in the future. It would imply that she would have an additional life compared to others. Fours was quite puzzled by Mr. Moon's deliberate emphasis on the principle of fair and equal exchange. Everyone who had sought Mr. Fool's help had made a corresponding payment.
Mr. Moon sure is a man who cares about his reputation. No, a sanguine.
Audrey seriously evaluated Emlyn's emotional changes that happened over a span of seconds. As the exchange continued, the tarot gathering slowly came to an end. After returning to the City of Silver, Derek first recalled a notary's strengths and weaknesses mentioned by Mr. Hanged Man. Then he once again headed for the Twin Towers that was north of the city to select a mystical item. Ma. He didn't do this before, because his condition wasn't stable after advancing. He was worried that making contact with a mystical item would lead to him losing control. Inside the spire, Derek Berg listed his requirements after finishing the paperwork. He saw a filtered list of items and obtained the corresponding documents that contained the information. After having a careful read and observation period, he quickly narrowed down the choices to two. The first was Cardi's ring. It was ancient and simple in appearance, and it was completely iron black in color. It was engraved with dark and complicated patterns. It was left behind by a resident of the City of Silver a long time ago. It could aid the wearer in awing a target, causing them to stop. It could also make ordinary humans temporarily lose their reason, or it could awaken the hidden emotions and memories of a crazy monster, allowing them to enter a brief period of confusion in which they wouldn't deliver any attacks. The other item was Thunder God's Roar. It was obtained from a city that was in ruins. It was rather heavy and resembled a sledgehammer. It was dark blue in color, while silver lightning swirled around it. Holding its handle felt like holding the leg bone of a creature. It could produce sounds that left the enemy in fear and chaos while in combat, as though a thunder god had descended upon the ground as he kept roaring. Every strike brought with it a potent destructiveness, with no lack of terrifying lightning. The negative effect of Cardi's ring was that the wearer would unknowingly produce another self. Therefore, one needed to periodically receive treatment from a psyche analyst. If there were any missed treatments, then it could result in the aggravation of the problem, making it harder to treat. And eventually, the two selves would enter a fight, ultimately leading to losing control. In contrast, Thunder God's Roar didn't have that many latent risks. It would only make the user be a little irascible bit by bit. As long as one periodically vented their emotions, there wouldn't be a problem. However, it also had another side effect. In a completely dark environment, the chances of being attacked by terrifying monsters from the depths of darkness was 100%. The chances of being attacked is 100%. Upon seeing this number, Derek turned gloomy. This meant that many City of Silver residents had vanished because of this reason. They were the former owners of Thunder God's Roar.
Which should I choose? Generating another self is terrifying. Miss Justice has mentioned before that it's called dissociative identity disorder. Thunder God's Roar not only has a power that affects the enemy's state, but it also has a rather powerful offensive capability. My Axe of Hurricane has been used too many times, so it will likely be damaged ahead of time. I can produce light by myself, so I don't have to be worried about absolute darkness.
Derek thought for a moment and pointed at the dark blue sledgehammer.
I want Thunder God's Roar.
160 Boakland Street. Klein walked out of his master bedroom and saw Butler Walter waiting for him with a few invitation letters in hand.
Sir, there are a total of 3 invitations this week. There's an afternoon tea session on Wednesday, a literary salon on Friday, and a banquet on Saturday. They were sent from Saya.
Klein listened with a warm expression before saying with a smile,
Tell these friendly inviters that I'll be participating.
All right, sir.
Walter bowed and left the 3rd story. Seeing the figure disappear from the stairwell, Klein couldn't help but sigh inwardly.
After another week of such invitations, it will be my turn to invite my neighbors for a banquet or a ball. By repeating this act of inviting others and being invited, I'll really enter their circles and would be recommended by them to important figures at even higher levels. I'll be able to enter different clubs. Heh. Such recommendations are definitely established on a foundation of having sufficient wealth. A person without any value wouldn't be recommended. Socializing for high society is truly troublesome. It'll take at least another month before I'll get to make contact with people who were slightly involved in the Great Smog of Backland. The church is easier. As long as there's enough donations and enough piousness, I'll be able to freely enter and exit to listen to the bishop's preachings. Of course, that's on the premise I pass the investigation. If everything goes well, I'll be able to figure out the rotation schedule of the keepers and find a chance to go behind Chanis Gate.
Klein reined in his thoughts as he instructed his valet Richardson to bring him his coat, hat, and cane. According to his schedule, he was to head to the Royal Grand Theatre to see the most popular play, The Betrayer's Ring, in recent times.
This isn't solely for entertainment. It's to understand the popular plays, famous music, and trending novels. Only then could he have a common topic of conversation at the various high society gatherings. Being a popular gentleman must be tiring. Behind a one-minute performance lies 10 years of hard work. Social gatherings such as these are really exhausting.
As Klein lampooned, he allowed Richardson to help him wear a coat before he sat in his high-end four-wheeled carriage. He headed for the Royal Grand Theatre in West Borough, where he had a luxurious box to himself and watched The Betrayer's Ring.
It's different from television and movies. A play's acting is more exaggerated and impactful. Yes, this is determined by the acting environment. The story isn't bad. But why does it seem familiar? Don't tell me that it's a story adapted from Emperor Rozel's works. These are likely famous play actors. The papers have mentioned them before. It's said that they're very popular, just like celebrities on Earth during the age of the Internet. As long as I participate in the gatherings of high society, I'll definitely have the opportunity of meeting them.
As Klein watched the play, he habitually lampooned inwardly. Sherwood Borough, at the ticket booth of a large theater. Melissa, who finally had her turn, pushed the notes and coins through the booth window and said,
The Betrayer's Ring. 2 tickets. 3-page M on Sunday.
After watching The Betrayer's Ring, Klein sat in his carriage as he sipped a cup of black tea and received the evening papers that Richardson had purchased. He first flipped through the play's critic column, and he found the comments from some professional critics. He compared their reviews to his own, and he gradually formulated a unique and profound experience.
Yes, at the very least, it's enough to fool those ladies and gentlemen.
After Klein finished his homework, he leisurely read the papers and was surprised to find a piece of news. The Backland Bike Company's 10% shares have been sold. Further inquiries won't be entertained.
It's done. By publishing this piece of news, it means Mr. Isengard has already received the money.
Klein was first delighted before he frowned slightly. His gaze landed on the exclamation mark at the end. The information was indeed what he and Isengard Stanton had agreed upon ahead of time, but he found that exclamation mark was rather harsh on the eyes.
Such a statement doesn't need an exclamation mark. Mr. Isengard is a person who pays attention to details. He wouldn't give the papers free rein. He deliberately left the exclamation to pass a message. Chaza, Tishay. He's giving a warning?
While pondering, Klein suddenly realized something.
The 10% shares which Isengard Stanton sold are obviously from Sherlock Moriarty. With the former's character, he wouldn't sell it for no reason. In a certain sense, this means that Sherlock Moriarty, or his proxy, has returned to Backland. Therefore, one of the factions of the royal family that was involved with the Great Smog of Backland had acutely noticed this situation and has begun monitoring Detective Isengard Stanton, hoping to capture the person who heads over to claim the cash. How should I get the money?
Klein seemed to naturally read the papers as he began seriously considering the pertinent question. Chapter 769, Sacrificing to Oneself, 10 at night. Backland was drizzling again as a thin fog produced a blurry sense of beauty amidst the street lamps. Isengard Stanton's assistant, Bowen, surveyed the bottom level once before walking to the side of the oriel window and was prepared to shut the final window. At that moment, a shadow scuttled in and landed firmly on the protruding wall. It was a blue, short-furred stray cat. Bowen saw the large pair of yellow eyes looking at him, as he couldn't help but chuckle.
There's no food here.
As a detective's work made him prone to revenge, and him having many secrets to hide, Isengard Stanton's cook and servants were paid by the hour. There were a fixed number of hours a day, and they wouldn't prepare too much food. This made it difficult for there to be any leftovers after dinner. The blue cat opened its mouth, but didn't produce any meowing sounds. It began speaking like a human.
I'm Sherlock Moriarty. I'm here to meet Mr. Isengard Stanton.
Although Bowen was a Beyonder who was nurtured by the Church of the God of Knowledge and Wisdom, he was a low-sequence Beyonder, and his horizons were stilted. This was the first time he was encountering a speaking cat, so he was momentarily shocked and dazed. After a few seconds, he came to his senses and recalled what the cat had just said.
It said it's Sherlock Moriarty? This great detective really isn't simple. He actually changed into a cat. No. Control the cat. Such powers are really strange and terrifying.
Bowen rapidly calmed down and didn't directly answer the cat. He reached out to close the windows. After doing all of this, he said with a suppressed voice,
Follow me.
The cat immediately leaped from the platform behind the oriel window as it agilely followed behind Bowen with its tail up. It followed him all the way to the second story and watched him knock on Isengard Stanton's bedroom door. Isengard, who was dressed in pajamas with faint lines, opened the door and asked,
Is there something?
He was just enjoying his tobacco before sleeping. Bowen cautiously pointed to the crouched blue cat beside him.
Mr. Sherlock Moriarty is looking for you.
Isengard, with his white sideburns and thin face, raised his brows slightly and looked down. He took 2 steps back and allowed the blue cat to saunter into his bedroom. Isengard instructed Bowen as though nothing had happened.
Return to your room and get some sleep. Wake up as per normal tomorrow. We still have a case awaiting us.
After his assistant left him, he closed the door and turned to look at the blue cat who was sitting beside the reclining chair. He chuckled.
I never expected you to have such Beyonder powers. I was worried you would directly come over.
The cat said with a smile.
I noticed your exclamation mark.
It had to be said that having such an expression show on a cat's face was rather odd. It left anyone who witnessed it feel a chill run down their back. Isengard didn't react abnormally towards that as he sucked at his pipe, sat on a reclining chair, and slowly exhaled in comfort. He said with a smile,
I trust your intelligence.
Thank you for your compliments.
The cat politely reached out its paws and bowed. Isengard observed it and rubbed its pipe while smiling.
You should have understood what is happening. Those people don't dare to monitor me too strictly, afraid that I would discover them and end up telling the Church of Evernight and the Church of Steam. So even though it will be quite troublesome for them if they get exposed, I believe that they have a demigod among them. This is a deduction and is also based on certain feedback. After all, I've lived on this street for years, therefore humans and animals wouldn't be stopped from entering my house. I believe you've already figured that out. But when leaving, you'll definitely be tailed and tracked. Do you have the means to evade their tracking? Sum of money isn't a small one. Bringing it out would be quite conspicuous. Let me think. Were you planning on conferring with me in order to get me to deposit the money into a particular bank account, and then you'll find many people to withdraw them in different parts of Backland?
Upon saying that, Isengard said with a self-deprecating smile,
This is the best solution I can think of, but carrying it out would be extremely troublesome.
The cat didn't give a direct response as it gave a deep chuckle.
I only need you to lend me an empty room and 3 candles.
Isengard didn't press the issue as he said,
No problem. The shares were sold for £12,000. The buyer is the daughter of Earl Hall, Audrey. Well, the hiring of lawyers and accountants, as well as the publishing of the advertisements, cost a total of £600. In addition, There was a 0.5% stamp duty and 20% D-type taxes. So at the end of the day, there's only £8,940 left.
D-type taxes were a tax on commercial, financial, and specialized income.
There's tax. More than £2,000 are gone, just like that.
The cat's expression instantly froze. Klein was formerly a nighthawk, and his salary was tax-free. Later, as a private detective, his income was difficult to be monitored, so he never declared his income for tax purposes. Later, he became an adventurer, and since the bounties targeted at pirates enjoyed concessions, there was no need for him to pay taxes on them. Hence, he never realized that tax was something he needed to pay. Therefore, back when Isengard Stanton had mentioned taxes, he hadn't taken it to heart, believing that it wouldn't be much. However, reality had given him a heavy beating. As for why there weren't any taxes for the share transaction the previous time, taxes were waived by the Loan government for initial investments related to inventions, as a way to foster inventions. After a brief silence, the cat's whiskers moved as it said,
All right, give me the cash. Move it to the empty room. There's no problems with the money, right?
Isengard stood up with his pipe.
I've already checked them. They wouldn't do any cheap tricks on that, as it would be an insult to my intelligence. Remember to send me a signed letter of confirmation by mail later.
The cat replied, Prepared?
It's already on its way.
Isengard walked to the safe inside the master bedroom, using a passcode and key to open it. Then he took out stacks of cash, and he stuffed them into different briefcases. Following that, he left the master bedroom with these briefcases and entered a guest room diagonally opposite the master bedroom. Isengard placed the briefcases filled with cash on the ground as he said to the cat that followed him in.
Check it.
The cat said after taking a few glances.
I trust you.
Isengard nodded and pointed to the cabinet.
There are candles inside?
With that said, he left the door, held the doorknob, and said with a smile,
I'm really curious how you would leave. I believe it will be a very exciting magic show.
Isengard Stanton closed the door with a click, leaving the guest room silent and bleak. At the cat's side, a figure dressed in a dark red coat and an old triangular hat appeared. It was none other than Klein's marionette, Wraith Senior. He found the candles and quickly set up a simple altar. Skipping over many of the first few steps, he directly muttered in Elvish,
Blessed of the sea and spirit world, guardian of the Rorstead archipelago, ruler of the undersea creatures, master of tsunamis and storms, the great Kalvetua, your devoted servant prays for your attention. I pray for you to take his offerings. I pray for you to open the gates to your kingdom.
The wind inside the wall of spirituality suddenly grew in intensity as Senor quickly sliced the back of his hand and threw out a few drops of blood. As a Sequence 5 Wraith, everything on him was material that was rich in spirituality. The strong winds sucked up the blood, howling as it drilled into the candle flame that symbolized sea god Kalvetua. The flame burgeoned, forming an illusory door filled with magic labels and symbols. After about 10 seconds, the door let out a heavy creak as it slowly opened. One by one, Senor lifted up the briefcases filled with money and threw them into the illusory door. When there was almost none left, the gold coin he stored in his body flew out and landed on the altar. The wraith's figure then disappeared, projecting onto the smooth side of the gold coin. The gold coin trembled as it flew up, hitched a ride on the briefcase ahead of it, and entered the illusory door of sacrifice. Silently, the mysterious door closed as the 3 candlelight were restored to normal. At this moment, the blue, short-furred cat seemed to recover its senses. It looked around blankly as it meowed. After a while, Isengard opened the door and entered, finding all the briefcases with the cash gone. There were only 3 candles burning silently as the blue, short-furred cat was warily arching its back at him. While he scrutinized this scene, a rental carriage slowly drove past on the fork on the other end of the street. On the same night, in a building inside Chairwood Borough, Shio returned home under the drizzle. As she wiped her hair with a towel, she said to Fors,
"Your letter has been mailed."
Fors tersely answered as she began to guess when her teacher would respond. At this moment, Gio put down the towel and quipped,
"There's news about Mr. X's gathering. It'll still be at the same place on Friday night."
Great. I can tell Mr. World. I wonder how much I'll need to pay.
Fors's eyes lit up when she heard that. Before she could ask about the details, Gio added,
"Mr. X also gave a mission that said to have handsome rewards. It's to inform him of people around them who have abnormal luck."
Fors muttered in puzzlement.
People with abnormal luck? Is this man's brain working? Who would divulge things around them at such a gathering? This will make it easy for others to discover their true identities.
Who knows? Perhaps he really is a lunatic.
Gio didn't know anyone with abnormal luck, so she answered without much thought. Fors carefully thought for a moment, but she failed to figure out the true intentions behind this mission. All she could do was throw it to the back of her mind. She planned on praying to Mr. Fool once Shio went to take a bath, passing the relevant information to the World Gehrman Sparrow. Chapter 770, A Child Should Act Like a Child.
Mr. X is looking for people with abnormal luck?
Above the gray fog, Klein ruminated over the information Miss Magician had provided in an attempt to analyze anything of use. After thinking to no avail, he decided to approach it from another angle. He first recalled the people who had abnormal luck around him to see if there were any connections.
The Fog Sea's strongest hunter Anderson Hood counts as one. Dr. Aaron Sears is another. Both of them were affected by one of the Snakes of Fate. Angel of Fate Ouroboros was one of the creators of Rose Redemption. This secret organization supports and believes the true creator. The Aurora Order is equivalent to the true creator's church.
A series of circumstances surfaced in Klein's mind as he quickly came to a conclusion.
This is Angel of Fate Ouroboros' attempt to search for Snake of Fate Will Septon. He is driving the members of the Aurora Order to help him find Snake of Mercury Will Septon. And this implies that behind Mr. X, there's a King of Angels existing somewhere in Backland. Under such circumstances, assassinating Mr. X will be equivalent to having a death wish. It's no wonder Mr. X doesn't care about the uniqueness of Backland. The official factions would at most imagine that he has a saint backing him. In the official dossiers, the Aurora Order only has 5 saints. This way, they will respond in the wrong manner.
After Klein made the judgment, the first thought he had was to decline Miss Magician's request, and also to warn her not to provoke Mr. X. If it wasn't because sounding the alarm might affect Snake of Mercury Will Septon, while the Church of the Evernight Goddess clearly had records of Dr. Aaron Series' bout of bad luck, Klein would have gotten Miss Magician to report both the Angel of Fate Ouroboros and Mr. X to a particular church. He calmly thought for another few seconds and conjured the World Gehrman Sparrow, making him pray in the gray fog.
I'll confirm the situation and give you a reply tomorrow.
He didn't directly reject her commission, as he planned on first asking Snake of Mercury Will Septon. He then immediately returned to the real world, and he carefully took out the extremely fragile paper crane from his wallet before gently unfolding it. Klein wasn't in a rush to write anything. Instead, he first recalled the various questions he needed to consult Will on. After thinking up a draft, he got out a pencil and sharpened it with a blade. After stretching his muscles, Klein wrote,
The members of the Aurora Order are searching for people with abnormal luck. I wonder if you know how to use the Worm of Time to create charms. Does your placenta blood count as a mythical creature's blood? If it does, I hope to obtain 1 drop. What price would I have to offer?
Klein had originally planned on asking Will Septon how he was able to maintain his rationality. After all, the Church's information indicated that there had been no public faith in the Snake of Fate. However, he ultimately curbed himself from doing that, afraid that Will Septon, in his infant state, replied,
How did you conceive the notion that I'm rational?
That way, he had no idea if Will was joking or speaking the truth.
Although there's no organization that believes in the Snake of Fate, there are certain areas that believe in the God of Luck. It's considered a traditional custom. Perhaps they are an alternative identity of Will Oseptin or Ouroboros.
Klein mumbled silently and used the best of his clown abilities before managing to refold the paper crane. He then placed it underneath his pillow. Ecopes. After doing all of that, he had the time to calculate how much cash he had.
17,046 pounds, 5 gold coins, 3 soli, and 8 pence in change. If I had assets like a house, manor, and company shares, having so many liquid assets would make me quite a tycoon in Backland. Of course, I'm still very far from being a top tycoon. To reach them, one's overall assets need to be 1 million pounds.
As Klein was glad that he had quite a bit of money, he recalled his debt, as well as the large investments that he needed to make in order to develop his persona's image. He then drank a mouthful of water, got into bed, and covered himself with a light but warm blanket before he slowly fell asleep. Amidst his reverie, Klein suddenly snapped awake and saw the desolate black plains. He walked all the way to the pitch-black steeple in the middle of the plains, passing through the chaotic and abnormal layout before coming deep into the steeple. Like before, there was a circle of tarot cards on the ground. However, the protruding area in the middle of the tarot cards didn't have any silvery lines written.
Will Oseptin didn't give a reply. Then why did he pull me into this dream?
Amidst Klein's puzzlement, he suddenly saw a black baby pram roll out of the shadows. In it was an infant whose looks were indiscernible while it was wrapped in silver silk. Klein politely and cautiously asked,
Mr. Snake of Fate?
The infant immediately said in a clear voice,
What makes you so sure it's a mister?
Isn't that determined from your name? Don't mind such details.
Klein lampooned and relaxed due to the attitude he was given.
Then, how may I address you?
Will Oseptin, in baby form, tersely answered, as it said, stumped.
I haven't decided. As you know, you don't. Every time I start again, I try to make myself a little different, so as to maintain a good mental state. A child should act like a child while they're a child.
Klein's heart stirred when he heard that.
Is this the way the monster pathway maintains its reasoning so as to resist madness?
In the black pram, Will Oseptin replied briskly,
Yes, every beginning washes away the madness. However, it still needs certain anchoring from faith. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to maintain my state as a sequence one for too long. Heh. Compared to before, you're becoming more and more knowledgeable.
Oh, apart from anchoring oneself with faith, there are other ways to resist the madness. However, restarting is clearly an ability of Sequence 1 Snake of Fate of the Monster pathway. Other Beyonder pathways aren't able to emulate that. Mr. Azik is constantly losing his memories and repeatedly finding himself. Does it also involve the same concept?
Klein nodded in thought as he made every second count by asking,
I suspect Ouroboros is searching for you through the Aurora Order members.
Will Oseptin scoffed.
I've been playing hide-and-seek with him for a very long time. He isn't good at such matters. It's quite obvious that he doesn't have a childhood. Every time he restarts, he grows up beside the true creator. He lacks the psychological experience of the different stages in life, causing him to be very crazy at times, but of course he doesn't mind. I did inform Ricardo to use the die of probability in certain places and leave marks. This will mess up Ouroboros's judgment. He will soon leave Backland once again.
That means there's still chance of assassinating Mr. X. Yes, when the time comes, I'll divine the level of danger above the gray fog.
Klein didn't continue on this topic as he asked,
Do you know how to use the Worm of Time to create charms?
Will Oseptin didn't directly answer, and instead returned with a question.
You obtained a Worm of Time from Pelez Zoroast?
Klein was taken aback as he asked.
How did you know?
He wasn't surprised that Will Oseptin had managed to mention the origins of the Worm of Time. After all, there weren't many demigods in the Marauder pathway who could create avatars.
But why hadn't he assumed that it was blasphemer Ammon? The latter could also leave behind a worm of time.
Will Septon smiled and said,
Palace Zoroast isn't in good condition, and he had to parasitize your former colleague. Ah, right. Your former colleague was investigating Sherlock Moriarty, and he had entered my house in the middle of the night. I sensed that there was something problematic about him, and had given him a short period of bad luck, causing him to encounter other demigods hidden in Backland. And when he was in danger, Palaz Zoroast had taken action. Ha, it would have been fine even if he hadn't taken action. It's only a prank. I would have given your former colleague sufficient good luck at the critical moment.
Leonard is investigating Sherlock Moriarty? The grandpa in his body is called Palaz Zoroast.
Klein frowned slightly, unsure where the problem stemmed from. Will Septon continued.
The creation of a Worm of Time charm isn't too difficult for you. You can pray to that uniqueness trait about you, and use a compound of mercury and pure silver as a medium to draw the corresponding symbols.
It's not too difficult. Pray to the fool? That's right. The mysterious space above the gray fog clearly has a form of attraction to the marauder pathway.
Klein was thrilled as he felt like he had grasped something. At this moment, Will smiled and added,
As for what the corresponding symbol is, I've no idea.
What a huge reversal.
Klein couldn't help but twitch the corner of his lips. Shame. When he noticed that Will Septon wasn't speaking any further, he hurriedly smiled and said,
There's another question. About your placenta blood.
Before he could finish his sentence, Will suddenly opened his mouth and let out a cry.
Wah!
He began wailing like a real infant.
Can't we talk normally?
Klein froze in his spot. If he hadn't already confirmed it, he really would have suspected whether the entity before him was a sequence one, the president of the Life School of Thought. Klein said as he raised his hands midway,
All right. I just wanted to ask if it's the blood of a mythical creature.
Will stopped crying and said with a laugh,
Of course, but I'll swap it ahead of time, otherwise everyone will die on the spot.
He paused for a moment before saying,
If you can give me something suitable, it's not impossible to give you one drop. All right, goodbye.
Just as Will Septon said that, Klein felt the steeple shake as the dream rapidly shattered. Soon he woke up.